Her car broke down at 11:07 p.m. Pitch black road. Cold enough to see her breath. She called me. I answered on the first ring. There was no panic in her voice. Just irritation. "I'm stuck," she said. "Engine died. I'm on County 14. I told her I'd send help. That's when she laughed. Not nervous. Not scared. Mocking. "Oh yeah. What, your imaginary girlfriend gonna come save me?" Silence hung between us. 30 minutes later, a tow truck pulled up behind her. The driver stepped out. My wife's jaw dropped. It wasn't some stranger. It was my sister, the owner of the towing company. "Folks, Uncle Mickle here." I didn't think I'd ever tell this story out loud. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's explosive, but because of what that laugh meant. That one sentence. Your imaginary girlfriend. See, when someone says something like that, it doesn't come from nowhere. It's not random. It's built on something. Suspicion doesn't just appear fully formed. It grows. Quietly. Patiently. And when Jennifer said that, she wasn't joking. She meant it. I didn't react on the phone. Didn't defend myself. Didn't snap back. I just said, "Hang tight. Help's coming." And I hung up. I remember sitting there in the dark living room for a moment. TV off. House quiet. My coffee cold beside me. I stared at my reflection in the window. Imaginary girlfriend. That wasn't an accident. That was a belief. And beliefs don't come out of thin air. Here's the thing. I've never cheated in my life. Not on a girlfriend. Not on my wife. Not emotionally, not physically. I'm not built that way. I'm boring like that. Steady job. Same house for 12 years. Sunday hardware store runs. Early mornings. Predictable routines. But about 6 months before that night, something shifted in Jennifer. Nothing loud. Just small changes. More time on her phone. More questions about where I was. Even when I was exactly where I always said I'd be. She started using phrases like, "You've been distant." I hadn't been. At least, I didn't think I had. Maybe I was tired more often. Work had been heavier. My sister Lisa's business had expanded, and I'd helped her with bookkeeping a few evenings a week. Family stuff. Nothing secret. Jennifer knew that. But suspicion doesn't need evidence. It needs imagination. And imagination fills in blanks in ugly ways. That night on County 14, she revealed what had been sitting in her mind. She thought there was another woman. I didn't know whether to feel angry or hurt. Truth is, I felt both, but mostly confused. Because here's what nobody tells you about being accused of something you didn't do. You start wondering if you somehow caused it anyway. Was I colder lately? Did I stop noticing her the way I used to? Did I make her feel alone without realizing it? That laugh on the phone didn't sound playful. It sounded resentful. And resentment doesn't grow in healthy soil. So when I made that one call, I didn't do it to prove a point. I called my sister because she runs the only 24-hour towing company within 20 miles. Simple as that. But I'd be lying if I said a small part of me didn't think. Let her see who shows up. Let her see how wrong she is. Not dramatic. Not vengeful. Just clear. When Lisa's truck headlights pulled up behind Jennifer's stalled SUV, I wasn't there to see her face. But Lisa told me later. She looked like she swallowed a lemon, my sister said. And I didn't laugh. Because something in my chest felt heavy. Not victorious. Heavy. Because if your wife thinks you have an imaginary girlfriend, there's already a crack in the foundation. And cracks don't appear overnight. They spread. Quietly. That night didn't start a fight. It started a realization. And that realization is what nearly ended my marriage. I'll tell you how we got there. But first, you need to understand who we were before County 14. Before that road. Before that laugh. Before the tow truck headlights cut through the dark. We were steady. Not flashy. Not dramatic. Steady. Jennifer and I met 15 years ago at a backyard barbecue at my buddy Tom's place. She showed up late, carrying a store-bought pie like she'd baked it herself. I noticed the hesitation in her smile when someone complimented it. That's what caught me first. Not her looks, though she was beautiful. It was that little flicker of insecurity she tried to hide. I've always had a soft spot for people who try to look stronger than they feel. I was 40 when we got married. She was 36. No whirlwind romance. No dramatic proposal under fireworks. I asked her at the kitchen table one Tuesday night while she was grading papers. She stared at the ring for a long time before she said yes. "I thought you'd never ask," she whispered. "We built a quiet life. 3-bedroom house in a calm neighborhood. Maple tree in the front yard. Same grocery store every Saturday morning. We'd argue about little things. Thermostat temperature, whether we needed another throw pillow. But nothing explosive. We weren't that couple people gossiped about. We were predictable. And I like that. I work in logistics management. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. Numbers, schedules, routes. Things that make sense. Jennifer teaches middle school English. She loves it. Loves shaping messy kids into confident readers. She comes home with stories about essays and attitude and cafeteria drama. We'd sit on the couch in the evenings. She'd talk. I'd listen. At least, I thought I did. 6 months before the County 14 breakdown, my sister Lisa's towing company started expanding. She'd taken a risk, bought 2 new trucks, hired more drivers. She asked me to help with the books because numbers are my thing. It wasn't a secret. Jennifer knew. Family's family, she said when I first told her I'd be helping out. I'd go over to Lisa's small office 2 or 3 evenings a week. Nothing wild. Just spreadsheets and invoices. Usually home by 10. But that's when the rhythm changed. Jennifer started asking what time I'd be back. More specifically than before. Not casually. Precise. "You said 8:30. It's 9:15. Traffic happens. Phone batteries die. Meetings run long." I never thought twice about it. She did. At first, I brushed it off. Figured maybe she was feeling disconnected. I tried bringing her flowers once. That felt awkward. I'm not a grand gesture guy. She looked at them like they were evidence of something. "Where'd these come from?" "The florist," I almost said. Instead, I just smiled and said, "Thought you'd like them." She did. But something behind her eyes stayed guarded. And here's where I have to be honest. I did grow quieter around that time. Work was heavier. My father's health had been declining. I didn't talk about it much. That's not how I was raised. You handle it. You don't narrate it. Maybe she felt shut out. Maybe she mistook silence for secrecy. There was one evening, this sticks with me, when she was scrolling through her phone and asked, almost casually, "You ever think about what it would be like to start over somewhere else?" I laughed. Thought she meant a vacation. "Sure. Hawaii sounds good." She didn't smile. "I mean start over." I remember looking at her then. Really looking. There was something unsettled there. I asked if she was unhappy. She said, "I don't know." That answer lingered. You ever sit in a room that feels the same as always, but something's shifted just a degree? Furniture hasn't moved. Walls are the same color, but the air feels different. That was our house. We still ate dinner together, still watched our shows, still slept in the same bed, but there was a quiet audit happening behind her eyes. She'd glance at my phone if it buzzed. She'd ask about Lisa's business more than before. Who works there again? Anyone new? Subtle. Not accusatory. Just collecting data. I told myself it was stress. Teaching drains her. Middle school kids can be brutal. I tried to compensate by being more present. Took her out to dinner one Friday without occasion. She dressed up. Looked beautiful. Halfway through the meal she asked, "You feeling guilty about something?" That one stung. I set my fork down and just looked at her. No. She studied my face like she was trying to catch something twitching. Nothing was. But once doubt plants itself, reassurance sounds like strategy. And here's the part one still wrestle with. I didn't push harder. I didn't sit her down and demand we unpack it. I thought it would pass. Because in my mind, there was nothing to find. I'm curious what you would have done in that position. Would you confront it? Or trust that time smooths things out? I chose time. Turns out, time sharpens certain thoughts. That laugh on County 14 wasn't born that night. It had been forming, quietly, and I was about to find out why. The breakdown wasn't the real beginning. It was the reveal. The real shift happened 3 days later. Jennifer didn't bring it up the night Lisa towed her home. Not a word. She thanked my sister politely. Came inside. Went straight to the shower. We went to bed without discussing it. That silence felt intentional. The next morning, though, she was different. Too calm. Overly helpful. making my coffee before I asked, kissing my cheek longer than usual. It wasn't warmth. It was assessment. Around noon, while I was at work, she texted me. Who exactly works night shifts at Lisa's company? That's it. No emoji. No context. I stared at the message for a minute. I typed back. Depends. Why? 5 minutes passed. Then, just curious. Curiosity again. I told her the names of the drivers. David. Mark. 2 new hires I barely knew. She responded. Does Lisa ever ride with them? That one caught my attention. I wrote. Sometimes if someone calls in sick. Why? No reply. And here's the thing about unanswered questions, they echo. That evening when I got home, she was at the kitchen table with her laptop open. She turned it slightly when I walked in. Small movement, but noticeable. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah. Too quick. I set my keys down, took off my jacket, stood there for a second longer than normal. Jen. She looked up. What? There it was again. Defensive before I'd even said anything. You've been asking about Lisa's company a lot. So, is there something you want to ask me? She held my gaze, and for a split second, I saw fear. Then it hardened. Are you sleeping with someone? Just like that. No build-up. No gradual lead-in. Straight through the center. The question didn't make me angry at first. It made me tired. No. She nodded slowly, like she expected that answer. Is there someone you're talking to? Texting. No. Anyone from work? No. Her jaw tightened. Then why do you smile at your phone? That one genuinely confused me. Because sometimes things are funny. She didn't laugh. I saw you delete a message last week. Now we were getting somewhere. I thought back. It was a spam text. Some fake warranty thing. I told her that. She didn't believe me. I checked the phone records, she said quietly. My stomach dropped a little. Check the phone records. That meant this wasn't just suspicion. This was investigation. What records? There's a number you call twice a week. Late. My mind ran through possibilities. Lisa's office line. That's what it had to be. What's the number? I asked. She turned the laptop toward me. And there it was. Lisa's business number. I almost laughed from relief. That's Lisa. Jennifer didn't move. You talk to her that much? She's expanding. I help with the books. Until 10 at night. Sometimes. Why not do it here? I opened my mouth and paused. Because that was actually fair. Lisa preferred doing paperwork in the office. Easier access to files. But hearing it out loud, I could see how it sounded. Night visits. Twice a week. Same number. Deleted message coincidence. A pattern. And patterns create stories. I didn't hide it. I said calmly. You didn't advertise it either. That hit. Because she wasn't entirely wrong. I hadn't been secretive, but I hadn't been detailed either. I assumed trust covered the blanks. Maybe that was naive. Why would I cheat with my sister's business? I asked, keeping my tone steady. I don't know. She shot back. Men do stupid things. There it was. Not evidence. Not proof. Just fear driving the narrative. I sat down across from her. Jen, look at me. She did. I'm not cheating on you. Her eyes softened just slightly, but doubt still hovered. I want to believe you, she said. That sentence felt worse than accusation, because it meant belief was optional, not automatic. I need to know something, I said carefully. Where's this really coming from? She hesitated. Then she looked away. My friend Karen's husband was cheating for 2 years, she said. She had no idea. He helped her family business too. Ah, comparison, projection, someone else's betrayal bleeding into our living room. I nodded slowly. I'm not Karen's husband. I know that, she whispered. But how do I know that? And that's the moment I realized something uncomfortable. This wasn't about proof. It was about insecurity, about feeling replaced before you actually are, about watching someone grow quiet and assuming they're growing distant. And I had grown quiet, not unfaithful, but preoccupied. Maybe that felt similar from her side. The dilemma wasn't whether I was cheating. I wasn't. The dilemma was this. How do you prove something that never happened? And how do you rebuild trust that was damaged by imagination instead of action? That's when I made a decision. A calm one. One I thought would settle everything. I had no idea it would make things worse. My decision was simple. Transparency. No defensiveness. No wounded pride. If she wanted clarity, I'd give it to her. That weekend, I handed Jennifer my phone. Go through it, I said. All of it. She didn't take it at first. Just stared at me like it was a trap. It's not a trick, I told her. Passwords are the same as always. She finally picked it up. Sat on the couch, cross-legged, scrolling. I went to the kitchen and made coffee. Gave her space. Every few minutes, I'd hear a faint exhale from the living room. Messages with co-workers. Group texts with my brother. Old jokes from Tom. Receipts. Bank alerts. Spam. Nothing dramatic. After about 20 minutes, she set the phone down. There's nothing here, she said quietly. I know. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Because once suspicion digs in, absence of evidence doesn't erase it. It relocates it. Maybe you're just careful, she murmured. That one hurt. Not loudly. Just deep. I leaned against the counter. Jen, do you want to believe I'm cheating? She looked startled. No. Then why does every answer become another theory? She didn't respond, and I realized something uncomfortable. This wasn't investigative anymore. It was emotional. It wasn't about catching me. It was about feeling secure. And she didn't. A few days passed. Things seemed calmer. Almost normal. Then Tuesday night happened. I came home from Lisa's office around 9:40. A little later than usual. Traffic had been thick. Jennifer was sitting at the dining table again. Laptop open. Phone beside it. That posture again. Prepared. I called Lisa today, she said before I could even put my keys down. My chest tightened slightly. Okay. I asked her how often you help. And, she said twice a week. Sometimes 3. That's right. She also said you leave around 10. Yeah. Jennifer folded her hands. She sounded surprised. Surprised? She said she didn't realize I didn't know the details. That landed heavy, because I hadn't thought of it as details. To me, it was routine. To her, it was mystery. She thinks you're upset, Jennifer added. I'm not upset. But maybe I was. Not angry. Just worn. Then she said something that changed the tone. I drove by there last Thursday. I blinked. You what? I wanted to see. See what? If you were really there. Silence filled the room. And, I asked. The lights were on. Because we were working. I didn't see your car. That stopped me. I replayed the week in my head. Last Thursday, I'd parked behind the building because the front lot was full. One of the new drivers had left a truck there. Did you check the back? I asked. No. Then that's probably why. She didn't look convinced. And here's where the air shifted again. I also saw a car I didn't recognize, she said slowly. Probably one of the drivers. It was a sedan. So, Lisa said most of her night drivers have trucks. Now the pieces started stacking in her mind again. Sedan. Late nights. Missing car sighting. A narrative forming. I don't know whose car that was, I said honestly. Maybe a client. Maybe one of the office assistants. Office assistants, she repeated. There's one part-time admin. What's her name? Emily, I think. Jennifer's eyes narrowed slightly. You think? I don't memorize staff rosters, Jen. The room felt smaller. Not explosive. Just tight. I feel like I'm chasing something, she admitted. And I don't know if I'm crazy or right. That sentence, that was the lowest moment so far. Because she wasn't accusing anymore. She was unraveling. And I saw it. Her hands trembled slightly on the table. This wasn't rage. It was fear. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. That caught me off guard. Lose me? I'm here. People change. I haven't. How do I know that? Back to that line again. How do I know? I walked over and sat across from her. Look at me, I said quietly. She did. I am not cheating on you. She searched my face again like she was scanning for cracks. And maybe there was one. Not guilt. Fatigue. Because I was starting to feel something new. Not just hurt. Resentment. I had opened my phone. Answered every question. Given timelines. Invited verification. And it still wasn't enough. That's when I noticed something else on the table. Printed phone records. Highlighted. Dates circled. She'd been doing this for weeks. Tracking. Comparing. Building a case against a man who hadn't committed a crime. And in that moment, I didn't feel anger. I felt distance. A space opening between us. Not because she doubted me, but because she trusted her fear more than my word. That's a lonely place to stand. And I realized something I hadn't considered before. Even if she discovered proof of my innocence, the damage might already be done. Because once someone imagines betrayal vividly enough, they can't unsee it. And that realization sat heavy in my chest. Heavier than that laugh on County 14. Heavier than the tow truck. This wasn't about catching me anymore. It was about whether our foundation had already cracked beyond repair. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't slam doors. Didn't threaten divorce. That's not my style. When things get loud, I get quiet. Cold quiet. The kind where you stop reacting and start evaluating. That night after I saw those highlighted phone records, I went for a drive. Not to escape. To think. There's a difference. I parked at the old boat ramp near Miller's Creek. Used to fish there with my dad when I was a kid. Water was still. Wind barely moving. I sat in the truck and let everything settle. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Jennifer wasn't crazy. She was afraid. And fear will build a story if you don't give it reassurance. But here's another truth. I had given reassurance. Phone access. Timelines. Conversations. Transparency. So why wasn't it landing? Because reassurance only works when someone's willing to receive it. And she wasn't. Not fully. So I asked myself something I hadn't dared to before. Was this really about cheating? Or was it about something deeper neither of us had named? 45 years old. Marriage over a decade. Routine locked in. Maybe she felt invisible. Maybe she felt replaced, not by another woman, but by work, by spreadsheets, by silence. I thought about the nights I came home tired and went straight to the shower. The times she tried to start conversations, and I answered with half focus. I hadn't cheated, but maybe I had withdrawn. Not intentionally, just gradually. And gradual is dangerous. Still, that didn't justify surveillance. That didn't justify building a case against me. Trust has to run both directions. I sat there for almost an hour. Then I made a decision. Not dramatic, just firm. I would stop defending myself and start observing. If she wanted to check, track, question, fine. But I wasn't going to chase her belief anymore. I came home calmer than when I left. She was on the couch, knees tucked under her, TV on mute. "You okay?" she asked carefully. "I'm fine." I sat across from her. "We need to reset," I said evenly. She didn't interrupt. "You're scared. I get that. But I'm not going to live under investigation. If you have a question, ask it once. I'll answer it once. After that, you either believe me or you don't." Her eyes welled slightly. "I don't want to feel like this." "Then don't." "That's not how it works." "No," I agreed. "It's not. But neither is this." I wasn't angry. I was steady. And steadiness can feel colder than shouting. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Because I wasn't pleading anymore. I wasn't trying to prove. I was setting a boundary. "I'll cut back on the nights with Lisa," I added. "Not because I'm guilty, but because clearly it's feeding something." She nodded slowly. That would help. But something inside me shifted right then. Because I realized I was adjusting my behavior to manage her fear. Not because I'd done wrong, but to prevent escalation. And that's a slippery slope. Over the next 2 weeks, I reduced my visits to Lisa's office. Did bookkeeping remotely when I could. Came home earlier. More dinners together. More conversation. Jennifer seemed lighter. More relaxed. She even apologized once. "I let my imagination get ahead of me," she admitted quietly. I appreciated that. I really did. But apologies don't instantly rebuild what suspicion erodes. There was still something underneath. A tension I couldn't name. And here's where things took a turn I didn't expect. One evening, about a month after County 14, Lisa called me directly. Not about work. Her voice was tight. Mick, I need to tell you something, she said. My stomach sank. What? I had a client come in today, asking weird questions. What kind of questions? About you. Silence. Who? I asked. Jennifer. That was the moment the ground shifted again, because cutting back hadn't stopped it. It had just redirected it. She came by the office. Lisa continued carefully. Said she wanted to drop off paperwork. Then she started asking about Emily. I closed my eyes. What about Emily? Whether you two ever stay late alone. Whether she rides in your truck. Stuff like that. A slow burn started in my chest. Not explosive, but controlled. Jennifer hadn't stopped investigating. She'd just gone around me. And that changed everything. Not because she doubted, but because she involved my family. She brought my sister into it. Without telling me. That wasn't fear anymore. That was breach. Lisa hesitated before speaking again. There's something else, she said. And the tone in her voice told me. This wasn't over. Not even close. There's something else. I didn't breathe for a second. What? I asked. Lisa hesitated. I could hear office noise in the background. A door closing. A truck engine starting. She asked Emily directly if you'd ever made her uncomfortable. Silence. Not the soft kind. The kind that presses against your ears. She what? I said slow. Careful. She pulled her aside. In the parking lot. My jaw tightened. And Emily said no. Obviously. Because you haven't. But Mick, it put her in a weird spot. Of course it did. A married woman confronting a young employee about an affair that didn't exist. That's not insecurity anymore. That's public. Did anyone else hear? I asked. One of the drivers saw them talking. He asked later if there was an issue. There it was. Reputation. Not scandal. Not headline drama. Just quiet doubt. And quiet doubt spreads. I thanked Lisa. Told her I'd handle it. I didn't drive home fast. Didn't slam the steering wheel. I drove steady. Cold. By the time I walked through the front door, I wasn't emotional. I was clear. Jennifer was in the kitchen. She smiled when she saw me. That almost made it worse. We need to talk, I said. Her shoulders stiffened. Okay. You went to Lisa's office. Pause. Yes. You questioned Emily. Her face changed. Not guilt. Just defensive readiness. I had a right to. No, I said. Not loud. Just firm. You didn't. She folded her arms. I needed peace of mind. At the expense of my name? Her eyes flashed. So I'm just supposed to sit here and feel crazy? You already checked my phone. Checked records. Drove by the office. Called Lisa. I answered everything. What more did you need? I needed the truth. You had it. She shook her head. You don't understand what it feels like. Then help me understand, I said, steady. Her voice cracked. It feels like you're disappearing. That caught me off guard. I come home, and you're somewhere else in your head. You don't laugh the same. You don't look at me the same. I opened my mouth, then stopped. Because part of that was true. Not because of another woman, but because I'd been carrying stress. Quietly. Poorly. I told you about Dad, I said. You told me facts, not feelings. We stood there. Two people who hadn't cheated. Two people who still felt betrayed. And here's the part that shook me. For a split second, I wondered if I should just apologize anyway. Even though I hadn't done anything. Just to make it stop. But that wouldn't fix it. That would teach her that fear overrides truth. I have never been unfaithful to you, I said slowly. But you've treated me like I have. Tears rolled down her face. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. I don't feel chosen anymore. That one landed deep, because I thought my steadiness was choosing her, showing up every day, paying bills, being loyal. But maybe she needed something louder. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. I asked her something I hadn't asked before. Are you projecting something onto me? She froze. What does that mean? It means, is there something you're not telling me? Her breathing changed. Subtle, but different. The room shifted. She looked away. And in that moment I felt it. Not proof. Not certainty. But a crack in a different direction. Jennifer, I said quietly. She wiped her face. "There's a new teacher at school," she said. I didn't move. "Michael." The name hung there. "We've been talking," she added quickly. "Just talking." There it was. The moral line blurring. About what? About feeling stuck. About marriage. About starting over. County 14 flashed in my mind. You ever think about starting over? My stomach went hollow. Have you? No, she said quickly. Nothing physical. But emotional lines don't need physical proof. How long? I asked. A few months. Same timeline. Same 6 months. While she was checking my phone, she was confiding in another man. I leaned back against the counter. Not angry. Not yelling. Just absorbing. "I thought you were pulling away," she said. And he listened. I nodded slowly. "And instead of talking to me, you built a story about me cheating." "I didn't mean to." "But you did." Silence. Thick. Ugly. And here's the question that ran through my mind, and maybe you'll judge me for it. Was I more hurt by her suspicion, or by her emotional betrayal? Because she hadn't slept with him, but she had shared parts of herself she'd stopped sharing with me. And that cuts differently. "I ended it," she said softly, "when I realized what I was doing." "Did you?" "Yes." "Before or after County 14? She hesitated. "After." There it was. That laugh. That accusation. It wasn't just fear. It was deflection. And now I had to decide something in real time. Do I explode? Do I walk? Or do I acknowledge that we both let distance grow in different ways? I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just asked one question. Are you willing to actually fix this instead of chase ghosts? She nodded through tears. Yes. I studied her face, trying to decide if trust could survive this. Not because of an affair, but because of imagination, secrecy, projection. And I'll be honest with you. For the first time in our marriage, I wasn't sure. I didn't leave that night. A younger version of me might have. Slammed a door. Slept in a hotel. Made it dramatic so it felt decisive. But drama doesn't always mean clarity. Sometimes it just means you're running. I stayed. Not because I was weak. Not because I was scared to be alone. I stayed because I needed to understand what had actually broken. And it wasn't just her talking to Michael. It wasn't just the phone records. It wasn't County 14. It was the slow drift neither of us admitted out loud. The next morning, the house felt different. Not hostile. Just exposed. You know that feeling after a storm when the air is strangely clean? That's what it felt like. No pretending left. Jennifer called in sick to work. I took the day off too. We sat at the dining table. Same place she'd spread out the phone records. Only this time there were no documents. Just us. "I don't want to lose this," she said quietly. "I don't either," I replied. And that was true. But wanting isn't repairing. Repair takes humility. And time. We started with honesty. Not defensive honesty. Ugly honesty. She admitted she'd been enjoying the attention from Michael. The way he asked questions about her day. The way he noticed when she changed her hair. That stung. Not because it was romantic, but because I realized I hadn't noticed those things in a while. I thought consistency was enough. She needed attentiveness. Different currencies. She also admitted something harder. When I started talking to him, I felt guilty, she said. So I convinced myself you were probably doing the same thing. Projection. It's ugly when you say out loud, but it's human. She wasn't building a case against me because she hated me. She was easing her own conscience. That realization didn't erase the hurt, but it reframed it. Then it was my turn. I told her I'd grown quieter not because I was leaving emotionally, but because I was overwhelmed. Dad's health. Work pressure. Trying to help Lisa succeed. I thought handling it myself was protecting you, I admitted. She shook her head. That just made me feel shut out. We'd both been protecting the other in the wrong way. Silence had grown roots. Over the next few weeks, we did something we hadn't done in years. We talked without agenda. No accusations. No scorekeeping. We even went to counseling. Not because we were on the brink, but because we had brushed against it. I won't pretend therapy was magical. It was uncomfortable. Hearing a third person calmly say, "You both stopped choosing each other in small ways." Hits different. Small ways. That phrase stuck with me. Jennifer ended all contact with Michael, showed me the message, blocked his number. I didn't demand it. She offered. That mattered. I also rebalanced my time. Still helped Lisa, but not at the cost of being present at home. And slowly, something steadier returned. Not the naive trust from before. Something more mature. Earned. Here's the thing nobody tells you about surviving something like that. You don't go back to who you were. You build forward from who you are now. There were awkward days. Moments when one of us would go quiet and the other would stiffen. But instead of assuming, we asked. That was new. One evening about 2 months later, we were sitting on the porch. Summer air. Cicadas loud in the trees. Jennifer leaned her head on my shoulder. I really was scared you didn't want me anymore, she said softly. I exhaled. I never stopped wanting you, I replied. But I added something else. I just forgot to show it. And that was my part in this. Not infidelity. Not betrayal. Neglect in small doses. That doesn't excuse what she did, but it explains how we got there. We didn't become a perfect couple after that. We became more aware, more deliberate. Suspicion faded. Not overnight, but gradually. And Lisa, she and Jennifer had an honest conversation too. Cleared the air. Awkward at first, then genuine. Emily stayed at the company. Professional. Unbothered. Life didn't implode, but it did shift. And sometimes the shift is enough to wake you up. Looking back, County 14 wasn't the moment my marriage almost ended. It was the moment it demanded honesty. And honesty, when it's raw enough, feels like breaking before it feels like healing. I won't pretend I wasn't hurt. I was. Deeply. But I also saw something uncomfortable about myself. I thought being faithful was the whole job. Turns out, it's only part of it. And if you don't tend to the rest, distance fills the gaps. We got lucky, because we caught it before resentment hardened, before lines were crossed physically, before pride made us walk away. Not everyone does. And sometimes I wonder, if Lisa's tow truck hadn't shown up that night, if Jennifer hadn't laughed, would we have kept drifting quietly? That question still lingers, and it probably always will. There's something humbling about almost losing something you never thought was in danger. It changes the way you hold it. I don't look at Jennifer the same way I did before County 14. Not because I trust her less, but because I understand her more. Fear makes people strange. It makes them suspicious, defensive. It makes them build stories to protect themselves from hurt that hasn't even happened yet. And silence. Silence feeds those stories. I used to think loyalty was the main pillar of a marriage. Don't cheat. Don't lie. Come home. Simple rules. But loyalty without attention feels hollow. And attention without loyalty is dangerous. You need both. That night when she mocked me about an imaginary girlfriend, I thought the problem was her imagination. Turns out, imagination only grows when connection shrinks. Does that excuse what she did with Michael? No. Does it erase the embarrassment of her questioning my sister's employee? No. But it explains the soil those actions grew in. And understanding soil matters if you don't want the same weeds coming back. I had to swallow some pride. Admit I'd grown distant in ways I didn't notice. She had to face the fact that she projected her own emotional wandering onto me. Neither of us was the villain. Neither of us was innocent. That's usually how real life works. It's messier than right and wrong. It's about patterns. About small neglects. About conversations we avoid because we think things will smooth themselves out. They don't. They either heal intentionally, or they decay quietly. I still help Lisa with the business sometimes. But now Jennifer knows exactly when, how long, and why. Not because I'm reporting, because we don't leave blank spaces anymore. And Jennifer? She checks in with me instead of checking my phone. That's growth. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just steady. The kind that lasts. If you're listening to this, and you've ever felt that creeping suspicion, or been on the receiving end of it, I'll ask you something honestly. Are you reacting to what's actually happening? Or to what you're afraid might happen? That question saved us. It forced both of us to slow down, to stop building stories, to start having uncomfortable conversations. Because once imagination starts replacing dialogue, you're already in trouble. Marriage isn't just about not betraying someone. It's about not disappearing on them either. And sometimes disappearing doesn't mean leaving the house. It just means leaving the room emotionally. I did that for a while. She did it too. We found our way back. Not perfectly, but deliberately. So that's my story, folks. If it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far Uncle Mickle's voice travels. Protect what you love by staying present inside it.